So the sectional sizes of the LVLs in the internal, both for the bearers and the joists, we get those sectional sizes out of the span tables from the manufacturer of the LVLs. Okay, to achieve the required span between supports, okay, and at the required spacings, that all comes out of the manufacturer's span tables. Whereas out here on the veranda, where we're using timber, treated radiata pine, the sectional sizes and the span requirements for this comes out of the Timber Framing Code, Australian Standard 1684. That will tell us how far a piece of 140 by 45 can span, both for your bearers and your joists. Okay, we can see over here,
Bloopers. Hold on, I'm coming.
all right.
Walk on the plank.
Okay, so this is a good way to see what we spoke about in another video, is that when the bearers, so this is the bearer here, when it goes down, it's held down by this booker rod like we spoke about before. Okay, so that booker rod goes right down through the isolated pier, and it's down, it gets chem set, like adhered or glued, chem set into the footing, the pad footing underneath the pier, under here. It comes up through, penetrates through the cordon ant capping, okay, comes up, and then the bearer gets bolted down to it. Okay, and over here on an external dwarf wall, it's a little bit different, where we don't have the threaded rod and the bolt. Instead, it's just a bit of hoop eye and metal strap that gets folded up and around the bearer to pin it down to the dwarf wall. Okay, so like we said before, this cordon is doing two things. It's acting as a number one, as a DPC, as the damp proof course, meaning that any moisture in the ground that's going to get absorbed by the brick dwarf wall, it's going to want to rise up that wall, and this is acting as a physical barrier to stop that moisture going any further and getting into our bearer and causing it to rot. Okay, so it prolongs the life. Second function of the cordon is it's acting as a termite shield as well. So the termites can't get around that, or they can. Well, they can't really, but it gives us a visual inspection to see that if there's any termite activity. Now, according to the National Construction Code, we have to have a minimum of 400 millimetres, okay, from the underneath side of our lowest framing member, which in this case here is our bearer. Okay, so we can't go any closer to the ground than 400 mil. Okay, which is, about that much, and that allows for inspection for people to get underneath to have a look. Now here we've got plenty of clearance because it's the ground slopes, but on the other side of the house, it's getting down to about 500 mil, which is, it's tight to get in there. I was in there yesterday to get some stuff out, and it's quite tight to crawl in underneath there. So any lower and you're too close to the ground, it just makes it impossible to get in there. Okay, so we can see that the floor's down. Now you'll notice that there's, on the floor here, okay, there's all this blocking, okay, all the blocking through here, okay, both on the timber deck framing and also on the LVL internal framing, okay. Now what those blocks are doing, they're stopping the joist from wanting to roll over. And you'll see that there's a row of solid blocks on the end of all the joists as well. Whether they're LVLs or timber, okay, whether they're LVLs or timber, that stops those deep joists from wanting to roll over, keeps them nice and straight. Okay. Now with this here, all this material for framing that was bought was supplied from a manufacturer. Okay, so the plans were sent to a frame and truss company, and they sent out the whole lot. The joists, the bearers, all the wall frames, all the trusses for the roof were from the one company. Okay, so they have engineers and people working at their company that design all this stuff. Okay, so it all comes out on a layout, which is pretty easy to follow. We can see that also so far we've got a couple of walls that have gone up. Okay, and we can see that, you know, they're braced. Okay, braced up. The flooring, the particle board flooring sheets will go down where they're needed next, and then all the walls will go up after that. Okay, all the scaffolds up around the job. Okay, so all the scaffold runs the whole way around the whole house. Okay, so what that's going to do, it's going to do two things. Okay, most importantly, it's going to make the job safe. So there's not going to be people walking around on top plates, you know, which is going to end in disaster. Okay, so it's going to make things a lot safer, and also, you know, which is important, it's going to speed up the job. Okay, so rather than things being dangerous and unproductive, having the scaffold there means that, you know, the carpenters can use it to do the framing. The carpenters can use it to put the trusses up. The fascia and gutter people can use it for that. The roofers can use it. The bricklayers can use it. The carpenter put the eave sheets in. Okay, when it gets painted. So it gets used again and again. So the money that's spent in hiring the scaffold, you well and truly get back in productivity, okay, and safety. All right, so the next step is that the floor sheets will go down, all the rest of the walls will go up, and then the trusses will go up. Okay, you can see over here that the trusses are all being delivered. Okay, so all the trusses have been delivered and just sort of stacked out of the way, somewhere where they're not, you know, space is limited. So they've tried to be stacked away as best as possible. Okay. A few of the trusses have been passed up already. Okay. So a few of the trusses have been passed up here already. Okay, you can see they're supported on the external wall over here, and they're supported on the external wall over here as well. Okay, but eventually they're going to stand up, but because they're all lying flat in a stack, just a few temporary timber props have been cut in just to make it safe, basically. Okay, so a couple of props here, a brace through here, just to stop those trusses from wanting to swing down while they're being stacked. Okay, a couple of temporary braces on one of the existing walls that's going to stay, just to stop both the brickwork and the timber frame from wanting to move and, you know, possibly even fall down with the weight of those trusses on them. Okay, so yeah, a lot's happened, and a lot will happen in the next little bit, but it's good to see that things have been done well.